one of the best moments of my life attending Queen's funeral, and the seat I managed to get was probably the hottest seat anyone can get.
Suleman Raza, a restaurateur, a hotelier, a celebrity and an MBE.
Becoming an MBE brings great responsibility. Before having an MBE, could be a different Suleman, and now it could be a different Suleman.
What is your greatest fear?
If you have worked hard, a lot of the time you have this fear back of your mind. What if you go back down the ladder?
You seem to be very connected. I mean, is that something that you actively do?
Always looking at my parents struggling to bring food on the table, which kept the fuel burning inside how I could possibly contribute and support my family.
What is your greatest fear?
Straight away. I think this is a very common question gets asked. If you have worked hard to achieve your goals and pretty much started from scratch, a lot of the time you have this fear back of your mind. What if you go back down the ladder? What will happen again? And this is a feeling you really don't have an answer for. And yes, you want to be prepared for all the challenges and hardships again. As in a business, we are all, living on a roller coaster kind of life, but then falling from the top to the bottom is a feeling which nobody wants to go through.
Funny you say that, because I was thinking this morning, literally this morning, what if I went back to where I started? Because the thought came when I was thinking, I was happy once when I was earning, say, £1,200 a month. Now, alhamdulillah, visually people can see, and I can see myself, I've made a lot of progress financially. But it seems like that time was somehow happier than the time. I mean, of course, you have all the kind of freedom and you can do things. But it seems like when you had the less money, you had that peace of mind. But then again, you don't want to go back to that position. So, I can definitely relate to that. Now, take us back, way back in time. What was life like growing up back in Pakistan?
Yeah, pretty much a very humble beginning. Obviously, I had a very poor background. My father used to work in a post office, a government employee. I'm the younger sibling in my family. So, alhamdulillah, I have two elder brothers and two sisters, and I'm the youngest one. Always looking at my parents, struggling to bring food on the table, which kept the fuel burning inside how I could possibly contribute and support my family. So during my childhood, I remember I was compromising and sacrificing a lot on my sports and other activities in order to see how I could support. So I started working when I was only 13 years old in my uncle's medical store as a just helping them with the prescriptions and medicines, sorting out deliveries and all that. So and I used to get 10 rupees every day, and I used to bring it and give it to my mom. So even though it was very little, but I was trying to contribute. So I guess, now that we've grown and, we come that far, I always look back and I give credit to my mom that she kind of ignited that desire within me at a very young age that we really need to progress. We really need to improve ourselves and improve our living standards. And, probably she was the one who agreed to send me abroad. I was very young. I was only 18. And, she was continuously just telling me you will do well and, just go and do your best. So during the childhood, I don't really have a lot of fancy memories. All I remember is I used to go school and then come back and go to the work. And then I went to college for a couple of years. And even during college years, I was coming back home, then going back to the work and trying to support my family as much as I can.
So you started working at the age of 13. What was your siblings doing?
My siblings were all working. Obviously, my elder brothers were also working. They were government employees. They were also quite young. They were all trying to contribute within their own capacities, but not enough, because the earnings in Pakistan were never enough. Alhamdulillah, we never had to go out and beg someone. It was still enough to have the food on the table. But then when you look around, people doing so well around you, as well as one other thing I was always inspired with, during my childhood, is looking at people trying to contribute to others, especially my mum. Within the limited resources, she was always trying to do charity, and she used to distribute some food, cook at home, and distribute in the kids in the local community. So I always used to think, how could I have lots of money to contribute on a bigger scale? Because this is very little, what we are doing every day. So, that was kind of the feelings we were going through.
You were exposed to cooking back in Pakistan. Did you watch your mom and did you think, maybe I might do that one day as well? Or as a man, obviously growing up in a family in Indian subcontinent, a man is generally not the one who's cooking, unless you're a professional chef or something.
Yeah, you're right. In back home, India, Pakistan, as a man, you never think about cooking. And similarly, I never thought I would be cooking, even though I had a little bit of interest in cooking and seeing my mum cook. And as you would agree, everyone thinks their mum is the best chef in the world. I thought
exactly
the same. And so I was watching her cooking, especially for my father's guests coming in. And in the middle of the night, he would call her and tell her, I have some guests coming in, cook for 5 of them, 10 of them, and she will quickly get ready and start cooking. And that's the time she usually used to ask me to help her a little bit. So there was a little bit of an inspiration during that time, but I never thought for 1 second that at any time in future I would be cooking or I'll be in the same business of spices and, putting the food for other people's on the table.
Wow. So at what age did you actually move to the UK?
Yeah, so I was only 18 when I came to the UK. Obviously, it was a pretty young time for me to move to the UK. So I started working in a restaurant as a dishwasher. That was my first job. I don't know how much I need to tell at this question. You can guide me, whatever.
So before you, I guess, move forward, was there a particular event in your life or your family life or as a family where that triggered you guys to think, do you know what, maybe someone needs to go abroad and, perhaps, bring some income home? Or what was that decision? Why did that decision come about?
I think, back in the days, I'm looking at good 20, 22 years back, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh were all the same. And there was not many opportunities. I would call it lack of equal opportunities, which led every young individual to think about how possibly they can grow. So I was just one of them. And obviously my family, looking at all the possible resources available to us at the time within our country, within our reach, we thought possibly going abroad can help us grow faster and have all the desires achieved much sooner. If we continue living there, God knows how long it will take. So it was pretty much an obvious decision. Some of the other family friends had their siblings abroad and we can see them doing well. So we were just thinking during our discussions at family dinners that, one of us should go out and try and make a living, and then slowly we can see how it goes. But we knew that, going abroad will definitely bring, better results.
So what was the process like? So you've decided, you've established that you want to move to the UK, family is backing you, supporting you. Generally, I think, I don't know what's your kind of story, but generally the younger sibling always gets the extra love. Is that true?
Yes.
Okay, mashallah. So you decided that you want to come to the UK. What was the process like back then? Was it hard? Was it difficult? Or was it quite a easy process?
Yeah, it was a very difficult process. I mean, I came as a student. So I managed to get an admission in a college in the UK, in London. And the process wasn't easy. Back in the days, they used to interview you at the British High Commission, and you have to prepare yourself through lots of counselling and training. You have to get it. And then you have to show a lot of income and a bank statement. So I didn't have that at the time. So we reached out to one of my family friend who kindly supported us by providing his bank statements and giving us the undertaking that he will happily support all the funding for the students, during my studies in London. So going through that process, obviously there were some borrowings involved. But we were quite fortunate that some family friends supported us, lended us some money, which alhamdulillah within the 6 months of me reaching here, we returned back to everyone. And when I got the visa and during me receiving the visa and traveling to UK, I was planning in my mind how much I am going to earn and how I am going to return this loan and how am I going to support my mom and family. So I started daydreaming in my mind. So that process of probably, I think, around 10 days between getting the visa and traveling to UK, I was just planning how I'm going to settle down, how I'm going to work around, how many hours. And I was asking friends who were there already how much you earn every day. So I was just trying to calculate things, how I'm going to do so.
Impressive. I mean, generally you learn this stuff in goal setting and, creating a clear objective. And you were kind of doing that, already before you even arrived to the UK, which not many people do, by the way. They arrive and then they start looking at solutions. They don't think it through. Now, you arrived in the UK with like £50 in your pocket. So what other challenges have you faced when you actually arrived in the UK?
Obviously, finding a job. A very next day, I came out of the house and I decided to look for a job.
Was it summer or was it winter that time?
Winter. Very cold winter. A very cold winter. It was November 29th when I came to this country. So the very next day, I came out of the house and started walking around the shops. I thought, let me just ask for a job. I don't want to waste time and look for a job because my college was starting in a month's time or in 3 weeks' time. So I had a little bit of time. So I thought, let me see if I could find a job. So I started walking around from shop to shop asking for a job. And there were not many opportunities available within the local area. So I started walking further and further. Even though I didn't know how to walk back, I just kept on walking literally 2 to 3 miles.
Wow, this is way before your maps and Google Maps.
Yes.
So you just kind of kept on walking and walking, not knowing how the hell you're going to get back.
Yes. And I didn't even have a mobile phone. So I just kept walking and looking for a job. There were a couple of opportunities offered. So I thought I'll go back, think about it, come back. So eventually I came back looking at the shops and signs which I was looking at while I was going away. So it took me good 3-4 hours before I came back home. And the next day I decided to go again because the job which I was offered was probably much lower paid. So I thought maybe let me look for a better opportunity. And so I started walking towards Brixton, and that is almost about 4 miles from Streatham where I first came. So when I walked into this restaurant, I asked for a job and they said, we only have a dishwasher job. We'll pay you this much. So I said, yes, very good. When can I start? They said, next day. So I think within 3 to 4 days of reaching this country, I found my first job. I was very, very excited that, finally I'm going to work. And even I mentioned my experience in my TEDx talk, which I did recently, that on the very first day, I decided to wear a white pair of trainers, which was gifted to be my brother before I came to this country. And I didn't realize what exactly I need to do as a dishwasher. So when I walked into the restaurant, the chef gave me a lot of pots and pans, which I had to wash. So I was literally crying in my inside, what is going to happen to my trainers? Because I wasn't worried about me getting tired or anything. I thought, how could I save my trainers? This is how, a young mind works.
Mm-hmm.
So at the end of the first shift, my white trainers were turned into black and grey, and that was a big disappointment for me. Going back home, even though I first day at work, I never expected this much hard work, and my back had a little bit of pain, but I was more worried about my shoes.
Wow, this is definitely funny. So you walked a long distance. I mean, why did you walk that long? Is it because you're someone that doesn't settle for less, and you wanted to really go out there and see what's really out there?
Yeah, I guess part of a bit of both, I think. I wanted to get a better opportunity, but then on the other side, the shops which I was going to were mostly convenience stores. I didn't want to work in off-license stores.
Why?
It's just, when I was leaving Pakistan, my mom said, you shouldn't be doing anything wrong. We should be embarrassed of. So try stay away from all these.
So it's mainly because of alcohol aspect and stuff like that. Okay.
Yes. So I didn't want to go to them. And most of the shops which was within the area, and while I was walking for off licenses, some of the chicken shops already had enough staff. A couple of them said, come next week. Some of them said, come in 2 weeks. It's cold. It's winter.
Okay.
Come back in summer. So all sorts of responses.
Talk me through the journey. How did it go on from there? So washing dishes, what was the next step in terms of your career progression?
Yeah, so while I was working in the restaurant as a dishwasher, one of my job was to help the chef during his cooking processes. So every day I used to get at work pretty much first into the restaurant and set up the stations for my chef to come in. And that's where I started seeing him cooking and kind of fell in love with, whatever he's cooking every day. He's got that special art. There are a lot of mechanism going around his cooking structures and how he prepared dishes. The fragrances were always exciting me while I'm cooking, tasting, because a lot of the time he was asking me to taste just to get a second opinion. And that's where I developed my taste buds. So I kind of started helping him and requesting him to teach me a little bit more about the cooking. So I'm very fortunate and blessed that he was such a kind soul who was always supportive of me and
generally chefs are very protective, right, of their recipes and what they do. They don't want you to come that way. They want you to stay away.
Of course. So he wasn't one of them. So he was very kind a person, and when I told him about my story and how I came and I have borrowed a lot of money and all that, so he was always very compassionate towards me and showing me a lot of love, because I was pretty young, didn't have any mustache, didn't have any beard, very slim guy. So
you're still slim guy, mashallah. So
yeah,
you've kept that going.
Yeah, alhamdulillah. So he kind of inspired me to get into the cooking, and he was always telling me, he comes across a lot of youngsters who are not interested in cooking and learning the art of cooking, and they, never progress in their careers. Whereas I still remember his quotes were saying, if you learn this, you will always be thankful to me. And he used to say this literally every day, 3 to 4 times, until this day now. Obviously, since
you remember this?
I remember this because I wasn't probably taking him seriously at that time when I was telling me, you will always be thankful to me for teaching you what I'm teaching you. So learn this, how to cook rice, how to cook biryani, and all these things. Help me with the spices. So that's where I started learning, and pretty much within a year's time, I was maybe an assistant chef who was helping pretty much with the kadais and biryanis.
Wow.
And pretty much doing most of his work And so he started saying, I'm doing really well for him. So
Amazing. So, do you still keep in touch with that chef? Is he still around?
He died sadly a few years
inna
ago.
lillah.
Yeah. Obviously, I worked in the restaurant for almost 3 years, and during that time, as soon as I learned the cooking, I thought and I started thinking about setting up my own restaurant. Luckily, my elder brother was also here, so we kind of got together.
Amazing.
I said to him, let's set up a restaurant. So we started looking around for a shop. So we went on to get a shop in Tooting High Street. It was only a 15-seater restaurant. We didn't have enough money to even get it and set it up as a restaurant. So again, went on to get some help from friends and families, which they did. And so back in 2004, we opened up our first restaurant under the name of Spice Village in Tooting. Only a takeaway shop with no staff around to help us, pretty much me and my brother on his own. And that's how we started.
Wow. And was that chef that you learned from, was he disappointed knowing that you're going to leave him?
Yeah, I mean, so back in 2004, when I was working as a full-time chef within that restaurant, he has already left that restaurant.
So that made it a bit easy for you then?
So it was easier for me, even though my boss wasn't happy for me leaving the job to setting up my own. But I kind of convinced him, look, I have to go for bigger opportunities. And he said, if you were going for a job, I would have never left you. But because you're going for your own business, good luck.
No, 100%. I think every entrepreneur has to understand this. Like, okay, if you're going for a better pay, then let's have a discussion. And if it's something away from that, then of course, wish you all the best.
True.
So were there many Pakistani restaurants around Tooting at that time?
Not really. I think one of the main thing I realized very early in my career that a lot of restaurants are operating under different or South Asian identity, especially Indian. So I always thought when I set up my restaurant, I'll be always calling it a proud Pakistani establishment. So from the day dot, we set it up, marketed it under the Pakistani identity. And I think that was something really worked for us because at that time in Tooting, there were few restaurants, but all were operating under Indian identity. And there were a lot of Muslim communities, especially in Pakistan, Bangladesh, who were living in the area, but always mourning about the quality of the food. Because I was a chef, so I knew pretty much what's taste region from Pakistan. So I kind of set up the tone from the day one where I was able to attract the Pakistani clientele from all around London, initially from the local area, but from all around London, where all the Pakistani clientele can come in and proudly eat within their own establishment, who's not shy of, expressing their own identity. So I think the idea of showcasing our own identity really, really worked for us because, like I said, there were so many restaurants at the time, not just in Tooting, in around London, who were operating under different identities.
Did that annoy you? Like, why are they doing that? And you know what? When I do it, inshallah, it's going to be Pakistani identity.
Yeah, I mean, I at that time, because I was very young, I didn't know why they're doing it, and I was frustrated why they're doing it. But obviously, later on, as I grew, I realized why they were doing it. There were obvious reasons for selling it under different identity. And I've, to be honest, if you check my Google track record, I've worked pretty much all these years to get the recognition for Pakistani cuisine across the board, not just in London, maybe across UK. And I've always been a flag bearer of our own identity rather than selling it under Indian or anything, because the taste buds are too different. And there's so many differences.
So talk to me about the taste buds, the differences between Pakistani cuisine, Indian and Bangladeshi cuisine. Because obviously generally, like the way I see when I look at you as an artist, almost like in perfume world, that's what a perfumer would do, like, different mixes, different. And in fact, a lot of the ingredients, they kind of overlap. So what are the differences? If you were to just kind of explain to us in a very simple term.
So the Indian cuisines are usually very overpowering, and they use more of these stuff which pretty much more of the creamy stuff. They have evolved over the years. When they obviously first Indian restaurants started opening up in the UK, they kind of evolved into mixing the British style into the Indian style, whereas Pakistani style is still pretty new. And Bangladeshis have also pretty much evolved into British style of cooking, mixing it into the Indian stuff. So when it comes to Pakistani stuff, our ingredients are still pretty authentic, and we don't really use a lot of fragrances within the food in terms of using elaichi, and these flannel sauce powder and that kind of stuff, which helps you generate those fragrances. So if you eat at a Pakistani restaurant, you will feel the food is very authentic. If you eat at the Indian restaurant, you'll feel it's kind of combination of some artificial ingredients which are enhancing all the taste. So with all regards to Indian food or Bangladeshi food, I'm not saying they are bad, but they are different to us mainly for these reasons. It's within the UK. Because I'm a foodie and I'm in a food business, so I travel around the world always tasting food, especially in the UK. The British Pakistani food has still pretty much connected to its roots from its authenticity, whereas the Bangladeshi and Indian food has pretty much lost it and have evolved around the demand from English audience, as well as the born and bred up youngsters who don't like too much spices, as well as are pretty much not even aware of what the real food tastes like.
Now that you say, now that you put it this way, kind of I can visualize it in my head, because I've recently been into a Pakistani restaurant and it was really nice. Mashallah, it was really nice. And I do intend to go back, and it is in Tooting. I just can't remember the name. But what you said about Bangladeshi cuisine, that's been Britishified. I so agree with it, because only now we're starting to see some real authentic Bangladeshi restaurants come out in the scene. But generally, it's all kind of blended in. If you were to go to Bangladesh, then you will see a whole different type of Bangladeshi cuisine, and it's a very interesting setup over there. So, what was that one dish that really put your restaurant on the map, and what was the process of getting to that dish?
So we kind of created a recipe. It was an enhanced recipe of a fried fish called masala fish. It's called Village Special Masala Fish, which we started in the very early days of setting up our restaurants. So I kind of got a recipe from somewhere, but then I kind of enhanced by adding pretty much, I see you mixing up these fragrances to create a perfume. So it was pretty much a similar case of enhancing a recipe by adding a few more ingredients into it. So when we set up this recipe together and started selling masala fish, that was it. It just blew off for us. And we were known for good 10 years. We were known for our masala fish, and people were traveling all the way from Scotland to eat that masala fish.
Word of mouth or
Word of mouth. That's it. Word of mouth. So people were traveling, people were queuing up. So initially we only have 15-seater restaurant. As you can imagine, there were always queues, people trying to get in. There were other few dishes as well, which were pretty good. But this one dish, masala fish, was an amazing dish for us. And the recipe was pretty special. Till this day, I create that recipe. No one of my chefs knows the recipe of this fish. We're thinking to launch the masala into the market very soon. We're currently testing it, how to bottle it, and start selling it into the high
Obviously,
streets.
the recipe must be very special and close to your heart, and you probably wouldn't even go near to kind of saying what it might include.
Yes.
Can you give us a slight gist of what it might taste like?
Yeah, so it's more of it's made with it's a deep fried fish, and we use cod fish, so there is no bone. Obviously,
Okay.
no one likes bone in the fish. It's quite crispy, quite tasteful, and then like back home, I don't know if in Bangladesh you may have tried some fried fishes. I don't know anyone who sells as good of a fish in a desi style, which we do. That's all I can say.
Amazing. Hey guys, I hope you have been enjoying today's episode of Side by Side with myself, Kazi Shafiqur Rahman, and our special guest, Suleman Raza, M.B.E. If you have been enjoying our podcast today, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and share it with your family and friends. Now, without any further ado, let's get back straight into the show. You must have been obviously enjoying the success of a very busy restaurant. Was there a point where you're thinking, you know what, how long is this going to last? You know, I better just kind of hurry up and just make as much as I can. Was there a fear at that point? You know what, this could all go wrong?
Yeah, I see a lot of these food entrepreneurs, especially the restaurateurs, getting into the business, initially putting a lot of the effort and then losing the track and pretty much giving up, or the second generation not prepared to take on. So I kind of, looking back, we always had those sort of thoughts that, you know, what will happen going forward, and eventually we're going to get tired, because this is a very time consuming as well as challenging business, because you have to be on your toes all the time. So one of the things I think which separates us from our competitors or other restaurateurs, that we always loved what we were doing, and till this day we are pretty much in love with what we're doing. And that just keeps us going. We never look back. We don't want to wrap it up. We just want to expand and expand and expand. And the thing which keeps us going is the passion behind it, because we're not looking at it from a perspective of giving you a service where you just give me money and I'll give you it's not a money by service. It's just kind of making you, feeding you, and you just love it. And getting that feeling back from you, something just keeps us going.
Amazing. So you went to open a second restaurant in Tooting, and obviously then you can't be in two places at the same time. How did you kind of manage that process and make sure that masala fish tasted the same?
Yeah, so it was a little bit challenging, but obviously with the previous experience, it helped us setting up the second restaurant, the third restaurant. Obviously, we because I was the one who was behind the recipes, so touch wood, we never had any problems with the chefs, and you know, we thought how we can streamline our business and our cooking recipes and the transportation, the logistics. So within a few years, we managed to set up all those things, and that's when we thought, let's open up a few more restaurants so that the quality wherever the customers go are still the same. The real challenge was always, you know, if you are going to one of the branches, you may like that one better than the other one. But alhamdulillah, you know, we have been very consistent, mainly because, you know, we try the food ourselves before serving others.
Absolutely. Same in perfumery. We wouldn't want to sell something that we wouldn't wear ourselves. So
Good.
There's a lot of similarities, because I went to a course recently in France, and yeah, when I was smelling the spices, I was like, I smelled that in curry as well. So it was a very interesting course. So you called it Spice Village. Is it still Spice Village?
Yes.
from day one?
Yes.
And how many have you got now?
So we got 3 restaurants now. Back in 2010, we got into the events and catering industry. And that was probably another game changer for us, because before that, we were always thinking we're going to set up a big, massive franchise across the country, across London. But as soon as we got into the events and catering business, we realized this is probably much deeper than we thought. And there's much more money to be made rather than going into the restaurant, which is retail, a lot more stress. And, you know, working around the week, the sales of a week is probably an average sale of one event. So we had to choose between, you know, whether we continue expanding into the restaurant or we go into the catering. So alhamdulillah, you know, in the catering and events industry, we made a great progress where, you know, we are one of the leading Asian Pakistani caterer. Again, we are not marketing ourselves as an Indian or an Asian caterer, but a Pakistani caterer with a lot of Bangladeshi fan base as well as Pakistani fan base.
Now that you've told me about the masala Fish is it still on your menu? Because
Yes.
I need to come and try it.
Yes,
And it has to be
100%.
made by you, man.
100%.
So, and then you went to do much bigger things, and we will discuss about the hotel and all of that. So you've made a calculated decision. You know what? Opening more restaurants, adding more costs, more chefs, more people to manage, it's just too tiresome. We would rather do events and just turn up at the event and just do the catering and it's 1 week's. Did you say 1 week's worth of revenue in one day?
In 1 day, yes.
Wow, that's impressive. So if someone is actually trying to set up a restaurant, maybe they have a thing for a restaurant, maybe they think it's making money, some people say, you know what, restaurant or food business is one of the businesses that will always exist as long as there's humans around. What would you tell them? What do they need to look out for, and what do they need to do to set up a restaurant?
I think a restaurant is not top of a business which you just go in to get monetary results or monetary benefits out of it. So 2 things you need. First is the commitment of pretty much sacrificing your family and giving it as much time as you can. Pretty much forget about your family. So give it the commitment it needs, which means that you are prepared to spend hours and hours at work. And second is your passion. So if you're not prepared to serve the best and have that love behind it of feeding people, the restaurant is not going to be successful. And I see a lot of these successful restaurants out there. The entrepreneurs behind them are the real people. I mean, a lot of the time you would come across people who would say, oh, they are doing well because they have a best chef. But I tell you what, they have the best entrepreneurs behind the scenes, making sure they provide all the right ingredients to the chef, empower him to deliver his best. So you need to have the passion and the commitment to make this successful. So you got to think twice before jumping into this.
So how do you feel when you taste a bad dish? I mean, a lot of these takeaways, they're not, obviously you are a passionate person about food and, you are all about quality. I can see that from the way you're talking. I can feel the energy in the room. How do you feel though when you taste a bad dish and you can see it's like they haven't really put the effort in?
Yeah, over the years, now that when I look at the dish, I could pretty much tell from the look of it, it's not great. So now that I've trained the chefs around us, we've got a massive team of chefs who are always working and pretty much working on new recipes as well. And I hardly get a chance to cook myself. A lot of my time goes around tasting the dishes, and which has given me a whole different avenue of learning about the cooking and new recipes and dishes. So when I taste a bad dish, I'm still trying to see what could be the best combination taken out of it and added into a new recipe or into a good dish. So if there's a bad dish, when you put it on your tongue, it's like you have this fragrances business. You can tell what are the ingredients. So if I put it on my tongue, thankfully, I can tell what are the ingredients and I can tell what was less and what is more and what needs to be added. So even if it is a bad dish, there's still something good in there. So I'm always telling the chefs to pick something from here and add it into the next one.
Wow, amazing. So, and then you ended up opening banqueting and boutique hotel. How did that come about? That's quite a transition from, food and restaurant industry to then into hotel. I guess that falls under travel tourism sector.
Yeah, so credit to our events business, which we were in since 2010, and we were continuously looking for opportunities and how we can possibly expand our business further. So back in 2015, we opened up our first hotel and banqueting center, which is still the biggest in South London, up to 1,000 capacity. The idea behind was very simple because we were in events industry. We were going around different venues to cater for people. We thought, how about having our own venue and have people coming to us rather than we have to travel all around London, picking up the food on the lorries and stuff. So, and we knew pretty much working in the events industry, this will do well. It was again a calculated risk where in South London, hardly anything existed at the time. So we were very fortunate to find this place. And obviously, we didn't have any hotel experience. So I thought, again, it'll be pretty much starting from scratch while we've been already established in the restaurant and events industry. So alhamdulillah, within the 3 months of our opening up the hotel, we managed to find good team around us. I worked as a receptionist in the hotel pretty much in the first few days just to learn about the hotel. Again, I learned from scratch before anybody else comes and joins the team, so nobody can tell us what to do. So the hotel side of thing and the banqueting side of things started doing pretty much well from the day dot. We even got bookings before we opened up. So again, it was a game changer for us, and we never looked back.
Wow. So how many rooms in the hotel?
We have 40 rooms in the hotel.
Oh, that's decent size.
Yeah.
Would you mind sharing with us, what the cost, roughly, what it could cost to set up something like this today? Subject to obviously the space being available.
There are few places in London which are already established and are up for grab. You're looking at 25 billion pounds worth to invest into this kind of venture.
Well, that's pretty big. So business is booming, hotel is launched, you're kind of operating quite successfully. You're probably adding your entrepreneurial and chef flair into the hotel business. Amazing stuff. And then obviously we are faced with the global pandemic. How did that go for you? I know you've had a lot of initiatives during the pandemic. What did you do during pandemic?
Yeah, like any other business, pandemic was a very difficult and challenging one. I remember, firstly, we had a biggest challenge of people calling off their weddings very last minute. Some of them even 24 to 48 hours away,
Wow.
literally when the COVID was, when the restriction was put on. So firstly, we had a challenge of, handling all those people, all those couples whose big days were almost planned. So first few days were really, really tough for us, and people are asking for their monies to be refunded. They don't know what's going to happen, when these restrictions are going to be over. So we had to refund a lot of monies to these couples and people during these difficult times. And at the same time, we have to see how we can possibly continue our income streams as well as retain our staff, which has been working with us for so many years. And we didn't really want to lose them because we knew if we lose them now and when things will be back on, it will be very difficult to build this team. And if I can emphasize on one thing I learned over the years, is probably my biggest asset is my team. So even during COVID, I was more worried about the team than my own self and my own business, because I knew if I had the team, I would build it again soon. But if I don't have the team, it will take me years to do it again. So I think I was very fortunate. There are two parts of our success during COVID. The first part started with our 1 million meals campaign, which I would tell you a little bit more about it. And the second part was the drive-through, which we did during COVID. So the first part started in very early days because we have stocked up quite a bit of food for a season, because we were touching Easter holidays, and usually it's a very busy time for us. So we had a lot of stock within the business, and when the news came out, there was news that it was not come off for a year. So we thought the food is going to go. How do we make the use of it? So there were news coming out about the hospitals are flocking with the patients, and there is no food in the restaurant in the hospitals for even the NHS staff. There was a nurse crying over the TV saying there's no food to be bought because all the supermarkets are empty. So that really touched my heart. So I thought, let me start supporting my local hospital, and we can prepare a few meals and take it out to the local hospital. So
Must have been the best cooked meal.
within that, yes. So we cooked the first day. We cooked a few meals and took it to the hospitals. And by the time we entered the hospital, all the meals were taken by the staff. This is how they were crazy for the food. So that really, made me think again. I went back again, cooked again, and brought a few more meals for that particular Croydon.
Did you cook with your own hand?
I helped. Obviously, there were chefs
Okay.
working, so I also helped them in terms of packaging and putting a few more things on top. So when I came back, we got a call from another hospital. A colleague of Croydon Hospital was working elsewhere. He goes, "We have learned that you've given them food. Why don't you give us the food?" So we went to give them the food. And that's when the idea started growing. How do we support the NHS staff? And, there are a lot of hospitals around, and staff, I'm sure, will be the same everywhere. So we quickly set up a team, and we had a lot of staff working for us, as well as a lot of friends, volunteers willing to help us. And so we started just providing meals to the hospital. We set up a website where people can donate to us. Obviously, we couldn't do it all on our own. So we set up a website where people can donate us, and we can provide meals to the hospitals. So we were, pretty much one of the first ones to set it up. And soon, a lot of celebrities found out about our campaign. A lot of mainstream media got involved. One of the celebs, David Beckham, got involved into it.
How did he find out? Did he tell you? Did you get a chance to talk to him? Or?
Yes, I did get a chance to talk to him. He was known to me through a common friend. So I reached out to my friend to see if he could help us. I didn't want to ask him for a donation or anything. I thought even if he can just spread a word for us, that will be enough for us. And that exactly happened. So I did speak to him briefly about what we're trying to do, and he was very inspired and impressed with what we're trying to do. So he very graciously went on to his social media. Even he went live on his social media to tell people to support the campaign. And next thing is, when we woke up next day, we had emails from BBC, Telegraph, Metro, you name the Evening Standard, trying to interview us and see how they can help us. The Santander Bank became one of our lead sponsor. A lot of colleges, universities, London School of Economics.
All as a result of
the celebs coming on. We had lots of other celebrities who joined us later on, but David Beckham was the first one who joined the campaign.
You seem to be very connected. I mean, is that something that you actively do, like building connections and network, or is it something that comes to you?
I think this is probably the reward of being in the hospitality industry. A lot of people ask me this question: how can you be so connected? And I tell them I never make any effort in building these connections. I think pretty much everyone comes to us, everyone walks to us. Somehow within the hospitality events industry, you come across celebrities, you come across politicians, you come across all these influential people who can be really valuable at the right time. And that's what exactly happened. And that shows the power of networking at the right time. When David Beckham came on board, a campaign out of nothing blew into a massive nationwide campaign.
Wow, that is really mind blowing. Now, so you were also attended Her Majesty's funeral. How did that come about?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I don't really know how did that came about. They usually have their own process of selecting people who they're going to invite. So
was it because you were already an MBE, or is that some kind of a filter?
I mean, possibly it could be also one of the reasons that, but there are lots of MBEs out there.
Yeah,
who
I was
going to
ask you,
so
pretty much, there are a lot of MBEs within our networks.
Yes, so I think it could be. I mean, it was a sad moment, but I think I was fortunate to be there. To be honest, I didn't really influence it in any capacity to be there. I was just selected to be there, and I think, like you said, somehow some people know you. I mean, recently I met the new principal secretary of King Charles, and she happened to knew me already. When I introduced myself, she goes, "Oh, I've heard so much about you, Suleman."
Wow, that is so
and
cool.
she was just recently been appointed, like a few months ago. And I thought she wouldn't know me, and I'm just trying to tell her I'm just a normal restaurateur and all that. She goes, "I've heard so much about you." So somehow some people know you, and that's how probably the list is created for this invites. And it was one of the best moments of my life attending Queen's funeral.
Were you there the whole day?
I was there the whole day, and the seat I managed to get was probably the hottest seat anyone can get.
Hottest as in like hot, or in terms of its value?
The value.
Okay.
Not as in hottest. The value of that seat, because I was pretty much on the entrance of the Westminster Abbey, where all the presidents and the world leaders were supposed to make an entrance. So there were two entrances. One was for common people and the state guests, and the second entrance for all the presidents and the queens and kings. So there were over 100 countries, kings, queens, and presidents, from Joe Biden to Canadian president to Prince William, the Kate. Pretty much was literally walking on touching distance from me.
Who were you sat next to?
I was sitting to some English, people. No relevance to them.
Okay, so no ministers or no
ministers. But I managed to be at the right spot.
So you got to see
and I was
everyone walking in.
And I was pretty much on the screen throughout the coverage, because when I came out, I wasn't allowed to keep the phone on. I had my phone flocked with so many messages from people who were seeing me on the TV, pretty much next to Prince Charles at the time,
it's
and
so cool.
Joe Biden and all those big celebrities who attended the event.
So you also quickly, just say, because we're running out of time, quickly, you purchased or you bought into Mirpur Royals, and why did you leave?
Politics. The cricket in the modern days has got a lot of politics involved in it, and our origin from UK, we really can't afford to be part of any controversies. And so when I first bought the team, my intentions were to pretty much look at it from a commercial point of view, as well as serving the local community and see how we can give opportunity to youngsters. But then as soon as I got into it, I learned there's so much politics, there is so much favoritism involved, and all these big players. For instance, my coach was Inzamam ul-Haq, my captain was Shoaib Malik, who is currently playing in BPL right now. It was very difficult to cope with them. So I thought I would have very limited say while I'm the one who's investing into it. So as an entrepreneur, this is not something you would do, because you won't have things going your way, and you will be relying on other people to make decisions on your behalf. So I thought this is not something I envisaged. So it's best I call it quits and move on.
Wow. So did you sell it or?
We sold it, yes.
Okay. Now, quickly before we finish with our quick fire questions, you were appointed as an MBE. How did that feel? And does it make you feel different now that you've got an MBE attached to your name, or you still Suleman Raza?
Yeah, I guess it does help in terms of your recognition, your credibility, your status in the community. But then I guess becoming an MBE brings greater responsibility. Before, having an MBE could be a different Suleman, and now it could be a different Suleman, because, as I said, the responsibility is greater. You got to be very responsible on what you say and what you do. Your quote can be quoted in a different way and different terms. I was very, very fluent on social media before I got an MBE, and now I have to think twice. About what I say, what I project on my social media. Similarly, in terms of the value of MBE is that we're very fortunate that we are catering partners at the 10 Downing Street. So we cater for events for all the presidents and all.
How do you make it all happen? I mean, is there a special thing about you, or do you actually have a team that does all the outreach, or is it quality of the food where they just come and love your food?
I think look, I'm sure you're in the business, and who knows better than you? There are so many people who want to set up Sunnah Mosque. Not everyone can do it. The Allah's blessing. Yeah. Combination of so many things makes a great perfume. Combination of so many things, a great recipe, and combination of so many things makes a great or a successful business. So I think it's a bit of everything. A great team, great food, connections, networking, influence. All of these things makes you...
So is that where you met Boris Johnson, and what was he like?
Yeah, very good.
Is he the person that we see on media? Or, I mean, obviously he's been to, I guess, one of the most expensive universities around the world. I mean, obviously he acts a bit strange, but is he actually strange as a person?
No, not really. I think one of the thing I've noticed in all these world leaders and all these politicians, I find them very humble. When they come across normal people, and that's what makes them leaders, probably, that they don't really come across awkward or tough or big-headed. They're always very humble, and a lot of them remember you with your name. For instance, I've met Rishi Sunak quite a few times, and because we cater at the 10 Downing Street, and I don't expect him to remember my name, but he does somehow. Similarly, the Mayor Sadiq Khan, he meets around so many people, tons of people he knows around, but every time he would meet me, he would call me Suleman. The Boris Johnson would call me Suleman. So this is what I like. I'm not saying I'm somebody special, but all I'm saying is these people are really special to be up that role, doing that role.
You know what? That's a very common thing. I think I've also witnessed around leaders. If you email them, they'll actually email you back. You would expect someone who's a big leader, they're not going to respond back. But generally, they respond back by themselves, which is quite a strange thing in which I've realized in my journey, in kind of being in business for a while. So we're going to end our conversation with a quick fire question that we normally do with every guest, which makes it quite enjoyable and entertaining. Try and keep it as very brief as possible. What's your favorite cuisine aside from South Asian?
Japanese. Mainly because I don't really eat out much, and I just like Japanese sushi, maybe something like this along the lines.
If you could travel in time backwards, where would you go?
Where would I go? Strange question. Pakistan.
We'll
just go back there.
And
I have fond memories there, so we'll just go and cherish them. Like you said, if you look back, the times were small, we didn't have enough money, we're still enjoying it.
Yeah. If you could have one superpower, what would it be?
Stop the aggression in Palestine right now.
MashaAllah. What a noble thought. What's one thing that you can't live without?
There's so many things.
One thing. What's the one thing?
My health.
Okay. I didn't think, I thought you would have said I need my phone because that's where all the connections are and, things like that. But Brother Suleman, it's really been a pleasure talking to you. Although it's been a while since we were going back and forth, but alhamdulillah, we finally made it. And I'm definitely scheduling a visit to your, I don't know which restaurant it's going to be, but I'm coming to one of them.
Wonderful.
I hope you have enjoyed the conversation, and I hope our viewers will also enjoy this conversation and share it with their family and friends. Once again, thank you very much for coming on the show. And that's it for today. I hope you have enjoyed today's episode of Side by Side with myself, Kazi Shafiqur Rahman, and our special guest, Suleman Raza, M.B.E. If you have enjoyed the episode, don't forget to share it with your family and friends, and comment below with any questions that you may have and any guest recommendations for our future episode.